What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Burd Files podcast. Today has been a very productive day. This is the fourth recording of the day, and we are here for part 3 of the senior segment where I talk to seniors about their high school experience and stuff that they want to do in the future and just life in general. Today, I'm sitting here with Gabe Ashby. He is a member of the class of 2020 and assistant captain of the hockey team, as well as one of the speakers at our virtual graduation. And today I'm just going to be asking him some questions. So, Gabe, if you want to just give a short little introduction, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Gabe. I'm from Denver. I went to Fountain Valley for 4 years. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. So 4 years boarding as well. So I just kind of want to just start, there. Boarding, you're a freshman. You're what, like 13, 14 years old, going to high school. And had you been to like boarding school before that?
No, I went to school like 2 blocks away down the street, public school in Denver. It was an interesting experience going from that to Fountain Valley for sure.
Yeah, so public school to private school, I'm much in the same boat. So you go to high school. Your first high school day is, right before your first high school night away from your parents. So you're a freshman, you're boarding. What's going through your head as a freshman boarding student, starting out your high school experience?
Well, I did a lot of stuff through summers where I'd be gone for 2 or 3 weeks. So it's not that new for me to just kind of be away from my family. So that wasn't really that hard. The stuff that was tough, as I'll put it, is like the people, you have to live with people that aren't obviously your family. You're living with, I think we had 16 guys in the dorm. And some of them don't really get it, and some people do. So it's one of those things where it's a learning experience for everybody. And there's a lot of shit where you just be like, like there's 16 of us, like you can't be like leaving messes out. Like you got to clean yourself up because there's no maid here. I'm not cleaning up your stuff. So yeah, that was definitely a big thing freshman year for sure.
Okay. So let's kind of like go in the future here. Let's say, the end of junior year. So that's your reaction, like beginning of, freshman year, just like your kind of freshman experience. So let's go to junior year, because obviously senior year is a whole different world where we did half of it on like online school. But junior year, you've had 3 years of experience now boarding at Fountain Valley. Now what's your perspective on just being a boarding student?
It's definitely important. Like day students obviously get the great education, but you don't get the interactions you get as a boarder. Like you don't make the same friends. You don't get the same experience, and you still rely on a lot of people as a day student. And as a junior, we still had the same issue with people not cleaning up after themselves. Obviously not exactly the same scale, but it was pretty ridiculous. But yeah, no, it was also being older too. You just know how to carry yourself better. You're not worried about like being a freshman. You're worried about like, oh shit, what are people going to think about me? As a junior, you don't care. Like you have your base of like friend group that you have set up, and like new kids will come in and they'll find their place, which would be tough. But as a 3-year, it was way better. I think the jump from sophomore to junior year is a lot bigger than it is from freshman to sophomore year.
Huh. So can you just kind of like go into that a little bit deeper, because I know some of my, especially for me being a sophomore going into junior year, I'm interested to like know why, there's that difference in gap, difference in situation.
For me, going from freshman to sophomore, it was like you're still an underclassman. Like you didn't mature much that year, or at least I didn't. And your group's pretty small that you hang out with, like the people like you're not really close to anybody that's a senior or junior. But when you go from a sophomore where you're smaller, like you mature over the summer, and you you have that friend group that's been built up because you do get a lot of kids in sophomore year, like yourself. Like I think we got 14 or 16 kids. I can't remember. And a bunch of those joined our friend group. And we had as a group, we like matured more, and it was just a bigger change.
Yeah. Okay. So fast forward a little bit. Now we're at senior year. So you're starting your senior year. You are this big man on campus, 4-year senior, hockey player. People know who you are. What are your expectations walking into senior year? What do you think it's going to look like? And I know goddamn well it's not what ended up happening, but what are your expectations for your senior year? Day one.
Well, for one, I was at the end of my junior year, I had a really good lacrosse season. Ended up going all state, so I was like stoked to go into senior year lacrosse season, which obviously didn't happen because of what shit's happening right now. But then for the hockey season, I was just like, I'm excited because there's a lot of new kids coming in. There's a lot of like old kids too that had matured and gotten better. And then I was, funnily enough, I was expecting to have some pretty rowdy dances, which we never went to. So that's whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I think Stupid Night Out is an experience that's like really sold to like as part of the school, and like.
That was easily half the reason I decided to go. Like, not half, but it was a big part because my brother went here before me, and he talked about it, and like when I toured, obviously people hype it up because it's sick. You didn't get to experience it. Kind of blows. Your first one's always the one where you're like, damn, that was different than I thought. Because it's 250 kids, and you were coming from like 3,500 kids or something.
Mm-hmm.
You expect the dance to be shit, but that's the one dance out of the year that's really not bad.
I got a couple more years to get to it, hopefully.
Yeah, we'll see how that. Yeah, we'll see if since Burn Bomb's gone, we'll see if that gets a little better.
Yeah. Well, so your expectations, you're expecting to have this rowdy senior year, and come March. Well, I want to go previous. Like, I mean, it's still March. They cancel interim. You were meant to go to the Bahamas, right? Belize. You were meant to go to Belize. You had a pretty solid group with you. And for those watching who don't know what interim is, essentially our school has a trip where you sign up to go on these international or national places, but you're going outside of where we are in Colorado, and you get to experience these cool different things for a week. And as a 4-year senior, Gabe had the privilege of getting onto the Belize trip. So they would have gone to Belize and had a great time for a week.
Yeah.
This ended up getting canceled due to the unfortunate coronavirus. How did you feel about that? I know there was a lot of mixed emotions there.
I was pretty ready for it, honestly. Having my dad works in the ER, so like he was kind of giving me the rundown of what was going on. I was like, if interim happens, it'd be great. Like junior interim was one of the best experiences I've had at Fountain Valley, but obviously I wasn't like too upset about it. I still wish I would have gone, but it's something where it could have been worse. We could have been that school that got stuck in Peru for like 14 weeks that like flew back recently, or we could have been stuck somewhere, but we weren't because we didn't go. So I think a lot of kids didn't necessarily think outside of their own self-pity kind of. And it's like a big experience, and it sucks, but you also have to realize like shit's bigger than your interim experience. It's not just about you.
Yeah. Okay. So, with that, let's go into, kind of in the now. Our school year is supposed to end, May 24th, somewhere around there. The seniors get their seminar, then the seniors have their ceremony, and everybody throws their caps in the air. We're all clapping on Graduation Hill as the seniors move on to the next chapter of their life. That is a fairy tale that may come true in 2021 and definitely was true in 2019. But for this class of 2020, you didn't get to experience that. And as a kid, coming in as a freshman, I'm sure you dreamed about the day where you would walk across the stage and receive your diploma from the headmaster or the principal. And that didn't happen, right? How do you feel about that?
That was one part that I was pretty okay with at the beginning, but once I thought about it more, it was like, this is a pretty big chapter that I'm not going to end with like a good note. So once I actually started to think about it, it was something where I understood why, but it still sucked. Like it wasn't the same. You're not there with people, like having the speech. Like, yeah, I think we did well. Like we did the best we could in the circumstances, but I would have rather been standing on a stage, talking to people. Like it's an experience that's very odd because obviously I've never graduated, but I've seen and I know a lot of people that did, and it was something that they're proud of. And being a senior and watching it on a TV, and then just TV's over. Like you don't get a walk, you don't get to like see people. You're just done. You go to bed. You wake up the next day, same routine you had the day before that. So there was no like finalizing. So that was definitely the hardest part.
So, I mean, you were an assistant captain this year. I don't know what role, leadership role you've had in the previous years, but I know that you were an assistant captain this year. Um, being in that position of that small leadership role on the team, what do you think? Just kind of being here, in terms of like the eye that kind of sees everything, as a captain. How do you think being a captain how do you think it differs being a captain rather than not being a captain?
Being a captain definitely gives you a perspective, because you are pretty much always talking to coaches. Every practice I would talk to the D coach about what was happening, and it gives you a good look into what one goes into coaching. It gives you more of an understanding of what they're doing, and it gives you the ability to be like, okay, well, this is what I'm experiencing, and then you understand it from the coach's side, and you're able to combine them, and it really gives you better understanding what the team is doing rather than just you or your line. So it's definitely it's a bigger role than I expected. Being an assistant, obviously being a captain is different, because you're more of a coach directed like captain. Being an assistant meant I could kind of not necessarily be in the background, but I didn't have to be up front all the time. I didn't have to be the kind of the asshole that has to say the stuff that nobody wants to hear, but everybody should. So that was part of the reason why I think I had the ability to communicate with both sides and not have issues with players if I was talking to a coach, or coaches if I was talking to a player.
Yeah. Okay. So sticking with hockey, you played 4 years at Fountain Valley, and I'm sure you played on club teams prior to Fountain Valley. What would you say is the biggest difference between the way Fountain Valley hockey works versus club team that you played for prior?
It's more of a family, because you're always together every day. You spend at least 3 hours a day together, and then you go to the same classes. You're in the same dorms. Like you go in tournaments where you're together for 4 days straight, and it's something where you really get to know people. And sometimes that sucks because you'll get in an argument with somebody, but it also teaches you, like, if you get in an argument with somebody, it doesn't mean you have to ruin your weekend or your game. Like it's something where if you disagree on something, you got to figure out why, and then you got to move on, because it's you got a game to play, or you got to practice to get better in. But I feel like it was definitely, compared to club, the familial aspect was a lot bigger. Because in club you'll see each other 1 or 2 hours a day. You'll be like, oh, hey, what's up? And you kind of leave. And then you go to a tournament, and it's like a complete shit show, because everybody's like, holy shit, we haven't been together for this long, whatever. Whereas at Fountain Valley, as much as sometimes you kind of wish it would be a shit show, it's nice because it's organized. You don't really, like, you're in the same room with 3 of your teammates, and you're like, all right, guys, we got to go. We got a game in like 2 hours. And then they get up and you eat together and you go to the game. Whereas if you're a club team, you just kind of show up to the rink before a game, which is definitely different.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, do you look at, is hockey something that you would want to pursue maybe, down the line?
It's something I've considered. I'm higher skilled in lacrosse, and that's definitely something I've looked at more. But I've definitely considered hockey, if not D3, which is the hope. There's no way in hell I'm going D1. Like, there's no way. So like D3 would be fun, but honestly, club or even intramural just to play. It's not going to be the same, but it's something that I look forward to doing in the future. I'll definitely keep playing. But I'm not as serious into the future as I would be with lacrosse. So.
Okay. So kind of diving into lacrosse, you've been playing lacrosse for a very long time. You've been a leader on that lacrosse team at the school for at least the past couple of, well, I know your junior year, you were definitely a leader. This year, you would have been as well, but unfortunately we got cut
Yeah.
short. So what do you think is your biggest takeaway just from playing lacrosse at Fountain Valley, and then kind of compare that to, lacrosse outside of Fountain Valley?
There's no debating it. Fountain Valley lacrosse it's not incredible lacrosse. The team aspect of it is definitely better. You play more as a unit than I have at a lot of my club teams. High-end club teams are a different story because you're practicing 5 times a week for 2 hours, and then you go to a tournament where all day you're at the tournament, you're playing 3 games, and the next day you have another same thing. You're out there for 3 days. So it's high-end club lacrosse is different than Fountain Valley, but as a you don't same thing with hockey. You're not with them every day. Like, you don't see them at the eating lunch. Some schools will have it like that, but there's not 200 kids. Like, you don't see them like 200 feet away. You're like, oh hey, and then you're eating lunch, and then you have the same schedule. But Fountain Valley lacrosse is definitely different. Leading Fountain Valley lacrosse is definitely different than leading club lacrosse, because in club lacrosse everybody knows what's happening. They know where they need to be, so that's not really what you're focusing on. You're focusing on keeping it in line. But with Fountain Valley, you have to teach kids. You have to make sure they're not falling off, and you have to make sure that you're playing well at the same time. And that was definitely something that I learned last year. And it's definitely something I would have continued learning this year if we had the season, but it's not the same thing that you would learn in club.
Okay. And do you think that, being a leader on the hockey team as opposed to the lacrosse team, which one do you think you got more out of, just, on a personal level?
I think lacrosse, because it was more person to person, because I wasn't taught, being the defensive captain and being the only defensive player that had played for more than 2 years. I know what's happening, so there's not the dispute of I'm right, you're wrong. It's more of I'm teaching you something, and it might not seem like it, but I will learn something out of this because I have to be able to show you what I'm doing and explain it. And if I can explain it to you, that means I know it well enough that I can build on that myself. Whereas in hockey, it was more about being a role model. Same thing in lacrosse, but you're not actively teaching people. In hockey, it was more of this is how you should act in certain scenarios. Whereas in lacrosse, it's this is how you should act in certain scenarios. This is how you play. This is what lingo you use. Even that was a lot of kids don't understand it. And when you have to teach a kid how to play lacrosse, it's definitely different than keeping kids from fighting in a locker room because one person thinks they're right and the other person thinks they're right. So that was the big difference there.
So if you could take away, if you could just kind of clip one good memory from lacrosse as well as hockey, kind of just walk me through what that would be, starting with lacrosse and then hockey.
So for lacrosse, I think my favorite experience was we were playing a team that was kicking the crap out of us. But our team never really got down on it. We were like, yeah, we're not going to win this game. We don't expect to, but we're going to have fun doing it. And we got better. We got noticeably better in our game as a whole. And that was really fun to see, especially since I was kind of keeping I guess in check with the team more in lacrosse, because it was okay, why'd you do that? And then they'd explain it and be like, okay, well maybe next time try this. And then they did try it. And since you saw the improvement, it was good. Whereas in hockey, I think the experience I'd choose is being in a tournament. You're in the locker room and you're just talking I like what happened. Like we lost a game that we really shouldn't have, and we talked like what happened. And it was possibly the only time I've ever seen a hockey locker room not have people yelling at each other. And it was a game because we all realized we all played like shit. There's no one person we could single out. Like the goalies played like shit, the D played like shit, the forwards played like shit, and it was we didn't necessarily learn anything about our game, but we learned like it's not just hockey. Like you have to understand like, yeah, that game sucked. You got to move on to the next game. You got to move on to the next practice. You can't hold that loss. And that was something fun to watch because that I think made our game better. I think that was in the last tournament. You kind of noticed. I don't know if you noticed at the end, the first game we lost, and we were like, well, we can't do that again. And then we won the next three, and it was definitely a noticeable change because we all realized like we got to hold our own weight. Like we can't just drop it. So.
Yeah. Okay. So, that kind of covers the sporting aspect. So now you're a senior. You've graduated, right? And you applied to school. One of the schools that you applied to was Navy. And so, what was your inspiration to want to go to Navy? I mean, Navy is a grueling school where they just beat the shit out of you, and then they build you right back up, right? Why did you say, you know what, I want to go to Navy?
For a long time, I've wanted to be in the military in some aspect. Obviously, every kid wants to be a Navy SEAL. You want to be that badass. But there's no way fucking hell I'm doing that. That is obscene. Those people are crazy. So I chose the Navy ultimately because I wanted to be a pilot, which seems counterintuitive, but Navy puts out a lot of pilots for the aircraft carriers, whereas Air Force will put out some pilots and they'll put out some drone pilots. And I do not fuck with sitting in a box flying a drone. So I chose Navy. And then thinking about it too, the Naval Academy has the Navy and the Marines come out. So it also gave me the option to maybe if I think flight's not really for me, I have the Marines to go to. Whereas if you're in the Air Force, you're kind of forced into that role, or you'll be special forces in the Air Force, which is not something I necessarily wanted to do. So it gave me multiple options. In the like schedule that they have is something that I like to have. Like I like having a pretty regimented life. Like I don't like this right now. This quarantine stuff's really not what I work well in. Having a schedule and needing to do something all the time is something that I need to do, and that was something they offered. And so that's definitely something I looked at. And then part of that too is there's sports there, whether you're playing club or intramural or D3 or even D1, you're being pushed. There's no like dicking around. Like you're doing it and you're going to do it to be the best. And that's another thing that I was looking at that I didn't really find in most schools. So
Looking into the future, eventually when you get into the Navy, I mean, you're going to be a member of active service. How do you feel about that?
well, I have wanted to serve my country, not in like the classical sense of like yeah, this is my country, like fuck anybody who like tries to change it. It's more of like this is the country I was born in. This is something I feel like I can help build. And even if I'm not like the president or a member of Congress or a member in the House, which I guess is Congress, or a Supreme Court justice, like I'll be affecting it in some way. I'll change people's lives, and that's a big part of what I do. I worked as a camp counselor, and I did I don't know how to explain it. I just did a project in Morocco where we helped build pathways, and we built a school for I would say low income, but that's not even telling you how they lived. It was a different world, and I did that because it's an experience that you're not going to get anywhere else, and it shows you a lot about the world. And that's another big part is being in the Navy or being in the military. You get to see the world for what it is, and it'll change your perspective when you're back here, and it'll give you a perspective on what's wrong here and what's right here and what needs to change. So that was a big part of my choosing the military in general, was the service, because that's a big part of my life. And so it gave me an avenue to do that. And it's funny because when I applied, it was kind of like, yeah, I think this is what I want to do. But recently I've come to the terms with the fact that like I could die. It's a possibility. When you're in a war, you're not all going to come back. And that's something that has definitely been tough thinking about. Like, I'm 18, most 18-year-olds don't really have that idea. But it's something where I think if I do my best and I have an impact on other people, then I'll have a legacy, and I'll like die the way I want to, pretty much. So.
Yeah. Did you ever think maybe, potentially piloting commercial airlines or cargo? I don't know, just going to pilot school specifically, as opposed to, the military?
Yeah, I definitely thought that could be an avenue I'd take, but the difference is obviously the military role that I do want in my life, and also the role that you get going from the academy. You get a high-end education. You get, if I wanted to be a pilot, I'd get 4 years of high-end college, and then I'd go off to pilot school, and then I have 10 years of service, and I'll have my life is set pretty much after that. Because come out of being a military pilot, and airlines want you. If you come out the Navy and you have a career or I guess a bachelor's degree in something, you're going to have opportunities. And it just gives me a lot of opportunities for the future, because obviously I don't know exactly what I want to do. Like, I got years to figure that out. I have an idea, but it gives me avenues to choose, and it still gives me the ability to serve without kind of being serving like just the country. Because when you're in the military, you're not just serving America. Like, we have a world impact, and it's good and bad, but it's an impact that not a lot of countries get. And I think it's something that we, as that country, should take seriously, and it's something that more people should consider, because it's not just working for people that are like you, it's working for people that aren't, and it's working for people that you don't even understand. And you have to like really build yourself up, and you have to build up the rest of the world too. And I think that's a big part of why I wanted to go military rather than civilian. So yeah.
When did you start thinking, I want to be a pilot? What got you interested in that field?
So I've liked planes for a while. I think every kid loves planes, but it's something that I kind of never shook. I'm interested in it, and it's something that I think, and it also applies to the career field I think I want to go into, is aerospace engineering, where it interests me as like a subject, and it interests me as an actual activity. And I've always wanted to do it, and I never really thought about doing it until some point mid sophomore year into junior year. It was something I didn't think about, and then one of my really close friends was like, yeah, I'm applying to the Air Force Academy. And that is when I kind of thought, I was like, okay, that's something I really should consider, because I was considering going enlisting, and that's a very scary idea, because when you're enlisted, you're a front line. There's not much you can do but front lines. So that was something that I was nervous about, but given planting the thought of going to an academy really gave me like the path. It showed me really what I think would fit for what I want to do. And so that's where that came from. So it's just a culmination of me being a little kid for airplanes still, and having a close friend that was able to kind of point me in the right direction to achieve that. So.
Yeah. you talked a little bit about your legacy on the world and being a part of the military. I want to know what you think your legacy will be at Fountain Valley, being that 4-year senior, being one of the speakers at graduation, being an assistant captain, being a captain on the lacrosse team, being a prominent figure in the school. Like, people know who you are. When you leave, what will you be remembered for? What's your footprint gonna have written in it?
Yeah. It's funny because obviously the more recent classes like your class and the most recent class, I'm definitely seen as a lot more of a positive figure. I don't, at least I don't think I'm seen as very much of an asshole. But I obviously can be, and it's definitely something that I work on, but it's a lot of the times it's a reciprocation where it's like, if you're gonna be an asshole to me, I'm gonna be an asshole to you, and you're just gonna have to deal with it. But definitely the two classes before that were kind of like, I did not necessarily agree with how those people carried themselves, and I definitely made it vocal. I'm a very honest person. I don't like paint around the fucking problem. Like, I will go straight to it. And that was definitely an issue, being a 14-year-old being like, what the fuck are you doing, to a 17-year-old's not the most intelligent decision. So in those classes, I'm definitely an asshole, and not a positive person. But I think more recently, I've had a more positive impact. So I'm hoping it's not the former one. So
I have to ask, you talked about Morocco, or you talked about, Morocco a little bit. I want to know more about this interim trip, and especially, the impacts it had on you and your perspective of the world.
Morocco was a round square service project, which is through the school, which was really cool. Having that through the school made it kind of more impactful to a point, because when you're doing it through the school, I had Lizzie, who's one of my close friends, was there with me. So it gave me a basis of like somebody I could fall back to. But then all the schools in Round Square are very similar, so all the people you meet are similar, and all the groups you're in are similar, and it was an experience where I was in a completely different country that does not speak English most of the time. Like, there were obviously the vendors that would speak English and our guides, but a lot of the people spoke Berber, and French, which aren't two languages you normally associate, but that's a big part of that region. And that was a great experience because a lot of the times you were working with people who didn't even speak the same language you did, and you could still make a joke without even talking to the person, because like body language is a lot. And then during that trip, we got to do some like cultural experiences. So we went into the houses and met families and talked to them, and it was incredible to see that the kids and the families were, most people don't associate high education with the middle of the fucking Atlas Mountains. That's not something you think about, but you're there and these kids speak 3 languages, and they're discussing a topic with you, and then they're talking to their dad, and they're translating their dad to you, and then you're talking to them, and they're talking to their siblings. And it was eye-opening to what the world actually is. It's not the fucking US history or world societies textbooks. Like, a lot of that shit's so incorrect, on like principle. It's correct in facts, but it's incorrect in principle. And so that was definitely something that was eye-opening, and that's what made it so special, was having the group that I could fall back to, but also knowing like, I'm gonna learn something here, and I'm gonna be uncomfortable because I'm not gonna know how to fucking speak the same language, but I'm gonna have to build a school, and I'll have an impact on this city, or I guess it'd be like a little mountain town. And that definitely what was impactful. And then on the interim, I went to Baja, which is the peninsula in California, or California. It's called Baja, California. It's in Mexico. And we had a kayaking trip. It was 6 days of kayaking, 2 days of travel. We get into Baja. The first day sucked. It was a massive sandstorm. We couldn't even get out in the water like we were supposed to. We weren't even able to get to our first spot. So we were like, this is just shit. But what made it special was the group was like, yeah, well, this is what we have, so we're gonna have fun doing it. And by the end of the trip, it was hilarious thinking back to the time when we ate sand and oysters. Like it wasn't a fun day, and nobody's gonna say it was, but it was funny because we went from that to being 2 days later we were fucking dolphins were swimming out while we were making quesadillas. Like you'd see the mountains, you'd see the sunset, you'd see some dolphins, like, and then seeing whales and seeing bioluminescent bacteria, like shit you don't see every day, and I probably won't ever see again. Like that's what made it so special, and the people there were able to experience it in a way that wasn't like all about, like, I don't know how to say this, social media,
Tourism.
I guess. Like,
Oh, okay.
yeah, it wasn't like touristy, which kind of corresponds with social media. Like, we posted pictures afterward, but we took those pictures on a fucking 10-picture waterproof camera that a kid brought because we were told to. But nobody else. We didn't bring our phones. We didn't like think about them. There was never a point in time where I was like, oh shit, I wish I could check my Clash of Clans right now, or like, oh shit, I want to look at Instagram. It was one of those things where it was like, I'm with these people, and they're all just here to be here. They're not here to be like, oh, I'm here, yeah, fuck everybody else who's not. And that was a big part in making it memorable. Fountain Valley itself is a bubble. Like, I don't think I watched the news once in my whole career at Fountain Valley. I'd come home over the summer and watch it every once in a while, but you're kind of like closed off from the outside world. It's its own little ecosystem. But then you get to these trips that you experience with people, and you're like, wow, like I'm kind of in a bubble, but like you realize that you're in a bubble, but ultimately you're expanding that like bubble, I guess, because you go from the bubble of the United States to the bubble of Fountain Valley, and then Fountain Valley opens you up to the different bubbles around the world where it's like you're in Morocco and you're eating chicken every day that they killed, like because you're here, not because they need it, but because you're here and they want to be kind to you. And that's not something we fucking do in America. We don't go to our fucking shed where we have 3 chickens and kill a chicken to feed guests. Like you just go to the store and buy a ham. It's not like it's an experience that you don't get anywhere else. Like Fountain Valley gives you those experiences, even though it is itself kind of a little nest. And I think that's a big part of what draws people to it, and it's also a big part of what pushes people away, because some people don't appreciate it the same way as you should, in my opinion.
So with Fountain Valley being that bubble that offers different experiences like that, do you think that your high school experience overall has prepared you for the rest of your life, for the real world?
Yes and no, because Fountain Valley kind of pampers you, and it's a thing of like my brother's experiencing right now. Like he's not a fucking live by himself. Like he's not really by himself, but he has to live by his own means, and he didn't really get that because it's not something you do at Fountain Valley. You get fed at the same time every day. You don't have to worry about eating. You don't have to worry about paying rent like your parents do that. You don't have to worry about, how am I going to get to practice? There's a bus. Like you don't have to worry about shit like that because it's given to you. And I think that's the bad part. But the good part is the experiences. So it's kind of a give and take of you get all the experiences and you get all the knowledge you get from Fountain Valley, but you really lose a lot of the personal drive to get things. And I think I'm prepared in some ways, and like I said, I'm not really necessarily prepared in others. So
Yeah. So now I know we talked about Morocco and we talked about Baja, and those are probably 1 and 2 on your favorite memories. But if you could pick a memory excluding those at Fountain Valley that you will cherish for the rest of your life, what is that?
at school, honestly, just like movie nights, whether it's after we play 2 games of poker and get our brains melted by the absolute bullshit that is Jeff Lassard, or whether you're watching a movie in the sala and it's like 8 of you and you order Popeyes and you eat Popeyes and you're sitting on the couches watching a movie and you just kind of like chill out, because that stuff it's not something you won't get out of Fountain Valley, but you won't get the same like community there. Like you live together. And so it's just a thing of like, I'm chilling out and watching a movie. I'm here, like just because I don't want to be by myself in my dorm. Nobody does. And I'm hanging out with people I like to hang out with, and even some people that I don't hang out with normally. And we're like having conversations, and it's like a normal day at a not very normal place. And those were good experiences too. The reason those were so good, like you said, is we weren't doing anything but what we were doing, which sounds stupid, but it's just a fact. And we did like, we were just there, and like, yeah, you'd be on like Snapchat every once in a while during a game, but like there was always a time when it'd be like, yeah, fuck you, you had a good hand, you're a piece of shit, you don't know how to play poker. Like if you said that to a random person, you get your ass beat. But like the reason it was so good is because like you're shitting on each other, but like it's out of love, and it was something that we put our hearts into, whether it was being nice or not. But it was definitely an experience that fucking brutal not having those. But you know, like life goes on, kind of like I talked about earlier. And the fact that we had those is what made that a part of my year so like special, and what made this part a little less shitty, but kind of more shitty at the same time.
You were chosen as the commencement speaker, and how does that make you feel, and what are your emotions to that, and what were you thinking on the time that you made your speech? Because you weren't wearing a hat. I know, like that's like half your brain cells just left with you.
It's completely gone. Oh, it's funny. I was actually when I was writing it. But initially, we got the email out like, "Who do you want to be your commencement speakers?" And I was like, "Not me. Like, I'm not ready for that shit." Because I was like, we just got into quarantine, and I was like, "This shit fucking sucks. I don't want to do that." And I'd be fine if it was in person. That's what I told myself. I was like, I'd do it if I was in person, but like, I don't want to do that shit if it's not. And then, like 4 weeks later, Lucy, the other speaker, texted me and was like, "Dude, we got fucking picked." And one, she definitely didn't think she was gonna get picked. I definitely didn't think I was gonna get picked. It was one of those things where we were like, "What the fuck?" But like once we realized like what it was, it just clicked. Like we were like, we know the situation we're in, which is kind of like we touched on. Like, yeah, it's a shitty situation, but we don't want to like leave that. Like that's not our whole point. We didn't have Fountain Valley. It was just this shitty 3 months. So that's a big part of what we did, was like we tried to focus on what experiences we had, and the people we were with, and where we were going and where we came from. And I think that's what made it so special for the two of us. And funnily enough, before that, Lucy and I aren't like, she definitely didn't dislike me. I did not have a favorite towards her. She wasn't somebody I'd spend my time with out like by choice. But after that, it definitely connected us in a way that I didn't expect. And I definitely appreciate her as a person a lot more because of that. And then like myself, hearing the news was kind of one of those things where I like thought, I was like, because everybody's like, okay, who the fuck picked me, right? Like that's gonna be the first thought. It's like, who picked me? Because like I want to know. But then I thought about it, I was like, it doesn't really matter, because like the reason we were picked is because they had faith that we would do it better than other people. And while I don't necessarily agree with that, because we don't know how it would have gone with other people, I appreciated the sentiment that was there, and it was something where it definitely opened. Like I was like, oh, commencement speakers, like cool, but like it's whatever. But then when you're actually doing it, you're like, this is an experience that nobody else has. This is a chance I get to experience with another person that it's going to be life changing, because it's not something you do on a regular basis. It's not something most people get to do, and it was an honor for sure. And it was definitely terrifying, even way more terrifying if I had to do it in person, which is kind of funny because I wanted to do it in person. But it was weird. Also, I had a sidebar here real quick. So I'm sure you're aware, I had long fucking hair, right? Like coming out of spring break, I was going to get a mullet for lacrosse season. I was going to get a mullet for lacrosse season. I was setting that. And we get to quarantine, I was like, what the fuck am I going to do? And so Miss Knuckles is like, okay, we're going to film this speech on Thursday. And I was like, I don't want my hair to be like this. Fuck no. Like, nah, I don't want my hair to be this atrocious. And so I like called my haircut place. I was like, yo, do you have any spots open in the next 2 days? And they're like, we got one on Friday. And I was like, fuck, that's like mid-class, like with Mr. Reynolds. I was like, how the fuck is this dude gonna react during our final class? And I was like, so I emailed him. I was like, hey, is it okay if I like miss half a class because I gotta get a haircut? Like we're filming the speech, like I need that. And he was like, yeah, do what you need to do. Like I get it. Like obviously it'd be better if you didn't. And so I like text Miss Knuckles. I'm like, holy shit, can we do this shit Friday? Like I need to get a haircut. And she's like, I mean, sure. And then she goes, actually, Mr. Mill was like, maybe you do it Thursday. You don't have to force him to get a haircut. I was like, I'm not getting forced to get a haircut, dude. I'm not filming this shit on Thursday. If you want a good film, like, and so I like ran to the haircut place right before class. Like I ate lunch, ran to the haircut place, got a haircut, ran back, got in class. In class, I was like getting dressed for the fucking video. Pull up the video, and we for 4.5 fucking hours we're filming the same speech.
It just
We
didn't go
kept,
well that many times.
it was so horrible the first few times because we were just like we were kind of in the attitude of like what, like this sucks, you know, like I don't and then we finally like we were like, all right, 10-minute break, all right, we're getting back, and we were like, whatever, we get back, and we fucking clicked. We did 2 speeches, did it twice, and the second one we did was the one it was a full cut. We didn't have to cut anything out. That was a single cut, and it was like, one, I lost my brain cells with the hat. I'm still sticking to it, like you said. That's why the first ones went bad. Second, the haircut, lost all the other brain cells in my hair. You know, that's kind of like a thing I'm known for. And then like the break, during the break, I like sat down. I put my hat on, which is fucking stupid when you have hair. Like, I sat down and I was like, I know what I need to fucking do. I was like, I just need to pretend like I'm staring at some fucker and like having a conversation that's just an absolute joke, because that's what it was. And that's what made it better was the fact that, one, I was like, hat's got to go on for me to think, and then two, like I was just like, yeah, it was a weird ass day.
Dude, you looked so out of your comfort zone talking, because like me and you talking right now, you're a monotone ass guy. Like you've just been monotone pretty much the whole time. But like, dude, in that speech, you were all like, class of 2020, I know that you were experiencing a difficult, like I've never heard that from you before in real life or online, never.
Oh
and I
my
was
God,
like,
bro.
wow.
That was dead ass 100% theatrical. I'm sure you noticed, like I don't do that shit. And I was in theater, like I mentioned, my junior year, which is why you haven't seen it before. But like when I need to be, bro, I can be as flamboyant as all hell. And I was just like fucking like just pulled all that energy out, and I was like, let's just be absolutely not me for a little bit, so that way there's some energy in this monotone ass shitty video that we have to send to a bunch of people that are sitting at their homes. And so I think that was part of it too, is I kind of like during that break I was like, well, like if I'm gonna be monotone, like it'd be different if I was in person, because it'd be like a conversation between me and Lucy, and we like, but like when you're in a video, you got to bring the energy. You can't not have energy. So that's what got that going. And yeah, Lucy kind of killed the vibe for part of it, and then I killed the vibe for the other part. And then in the end, it was just kind of like, let's just do it. And we brought our energy, and it worked. So I'm glad that happened. But yeah, no, you're definitely right. That was definitely not something I was vibing with, but I had to do it. So.
Wow, it ended up amazing, man. And so with that, I have my final question here. You know, you're a senior and you had to graduate in this unprecedented time, but you still have all the experiences. You still have everything that you've learned from your 4 years of high school involved. And so to upcoming to high schoolers, freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and most importantly, upcoming seniors, what is one piece of advice that you have for them that you think will be the most beneficial to carry with them throughout the rest of their high school career and life?
So I'm going to say a phrase, all right? And you're going to know this phrase because it's a pretty popular one, all right? And I'm going to explain why I'm saying it, all right? Like, fucking just do it. You know, then like, yeah, like it's pretty like, oh, whatever, just do it. But like, it's true. Like, I was like, I don't know if I want to do theater. And then I was like, I'll try it. And that was a big part of that year, was having the theater. And it made that part of the year, like, it was different. And it gave me perspective on people that I don't normally talk to, I don't hang out with. And it was something that was a lot of fun. And I didn't do it again, obviously. I would have if I was given the opportunity, but it's something that's most people wouldn't just be like, yeah, fuck it. Like, let's just do it, you know? And it's the same thing we did when we were ice skating, when we were like, everybody was like, let's all go here. And me, you, and Marcus were like, no, let's go get some fucking chocolate.
That was amazing.
Like, you just got to do things when you feel like doing them. It's not like you don't have to follow everybody. Like, everybody was pissed that we weren't with them, but it was like, all right, whatever, we're doing what we want to do. And it was the best chocolate cake I've had in a long fucking time. And like, even when it comes to like doing lacrosse, even like I played for, at this point in my life, it'd be 9 years. I played it for a long time, or like hockey, I played for since I was 2. Like, I've been playing for a long time, but there's still experiences that you're not prepared for because you haven't had them yet. And you just got to go into that with a mindset of, I'm going to do this to the best of my ability, or I'm just going to do this because it's there. Like, during a lot of like Fountain Valley, your days get pretty mashed. Like, you just kind of roll through it during the week or during the weekend. And when you're given the opportunity to do something outside of that, just take it, because it's not something like you're going to regret not doing it, or you're going to regret doing it, or you're going to love doing it. Like, either way, you're going to have an experience that's going to make that part of your year and better. Like, I hate fucking kayaking, but that interim was fucking insane, because I was like, all right, let's just do it. Like, I'm just going to have fun. I'm going to do it because my friends are here. I'm going to do it because even people I don't talk to are here. Like, just do it. Like, it's a Nike ad for a reason. It's because that gets them a lot of fucking shoe sales. But like, take it for what it's worth, because it's not something, especially at Fountain Valley, it's not something most people get, and you need to take advantage of what they do give you. And I think a lot of students don't necessarily do that, and I think that's part of the reason why my characters improved so much through my 4 years, is because I was just willing to go ahead first and do it. Just be like, all right, fuck it, let's go. And I'd do it. And then if I didn't like it, be like, oh, well, maybe that's not for me. But like, I tried it, because you don't know if you're going to like it or not. And that's cliche as fuck, but you know, it's a cliche for a reason. Like, it's like a life, like, not goal, I guess goal that I have is just doing things when I'm given the opportunity, because sometimes you might not get that opportunity again. Like with poker nights, initially I was like, yeah, do I really want to play poker? But then I did it, and it was like, oh, this is kind of fun, and we kept doing it, and it built a part of my Fountain Valley career, my life, that I'm not going to forget. And it's something that is extremely special, because I just did something I wasn't sure if I wanted to do or not. So that, boom, just do it. Nike that shit. That's my ending. All right. If you really want my social, text Mason or comment that shit, and then he'll send it to you. If you don't follow me already, yeah, whatever.
I might sauce it up on the screen. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah.
Post production.
I'm public, so I probably won't follow you back. But like, I don't.
Yeah. He's a big deal.
Yeah, I got like 340 followers. What you know about it?
Huge deal. All right, but Gabe, thanks for coming on. I appreciate talking with you. I feel like we really kind of threw it back. It wasn't just an interview, but more of a, we reminisced on some stuff that we experienced together, and I really enjoyed this conversation. Again, congratulations. Not only are you done with high school, but you were given the honor of speaking at your high school graduation, something that not everybody can say that they did. And, you're done, you finished. And, once again, congratulations, and thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. Like you said, it was good kicking the shit like we used to, but, if you ever want me back on, just let me know, and I can find a time. So.
All right. For sure. Peace, man.
See ya.